Darkhawk, issue number 5. So we have reached the finale of this mini-series. I loosely say finale because this is doing something I very much enjoy with the current crop of stuff happening at Marvel. 5-issue miniseries for a lot of characters. You know, Black Knight got one, Beta Ray Bill got one, Reptile got one, America Chavez got one. Characters that are prominent in other mediums now, potentially getting more ongoing stuff when the time arises. But until then, just a nice little mini series to give us the anniversary for 30 years of Darkhawk, and that is really cool. So this is the wrap up to the current Connor Young storyline, and this is a really good finale because it not only just wraps up the story that we've been kind of telling with the character since the introduction of this book. It is his journey losing his friend and coming to terms of who would be his ongoing bad guy if this were a continuing story. But it also leaves room for more interpretation, and it kind of sets up the character to be a part of the Marvel Universe. So when we do start this book, we are at the funeral for Derek. He was a young kid, prospects ahead of him. Everybody is just kind of saddened and hardened by the news. And you see that his basketball team's asking where Connor is. And his father says, well, he just needs some time to himself. And we see Connor sitting alone in the corner. And in comes Sarah. And Sarah is the, I'm going to assume, older sister to Derek. And she's like, even now, when he tried to get away from you, and she's saying like death is his escape from Connor. It's like he's still in your shadow. We're at his funeral, and everyone here is more interested in seeing you and the choices you're going to make as opposed to actually caring about my brother's death and his funeral. They're all focused on the bright young basketball prospect, and that even comes to a head when one of the people that's at the funeral comes up to Connor. And he's a representative for the Empire State University basketball team, and they literally just offer him a place on their team. Like, you got a full scholarship if you take it. He's like, what the hell is happening? And he feels so out of place, and he's just talking to his dad and his coach, and in the background he sees Sean, and this is where he's just like, he literally walks up and berates Sean, and he just goes, dude, you are as much to blame for the death of your friend as I am, because Darkhawk just came in and did all this weird stuff. So why don't we go outside, we'll talk to this Darkhawk character, and then we'll have a conversation about that. So they leave the room. Connor immediately just reveals, like, yeah, I can't really give you the Darkhawk technology because it's attached to me. And what ensues is just a big old fight, which it's just great. It's just really good, fun stuff. And one of the best things about this book, while still maintaining like the core values of like that original 91 run on Darkhawk, is that it's just like street level fun. The character has an alien, technology amulet inside of him, but it's still like he's a street level character. He's just fighting a guy that just got upgraded with technology on the black market. And it's just a fun fight where they're just, beating each other up and getting hit by trains and fighting on top of trains, and it just looks really cool and intense, and I am just digging this a lot, man. This is really cool. We start to see some of like the special power coming from Connor's power here. Like, he literally just like gets these huge guns mounted onto his wrists, and they become like these huge bazookas and start blowing up Sean. And it's working good. He thinks he defeats Sean. He powers down. He talks to his dad on the phone. He's like, Dad, there's just too much going on. And I feel like I was kind of responsible for the situation Derek was in. Like, I wasn't there when he needed me the most. And his dad's like, it's not true. You can be here for him now. And you come to his family. He's like, I will. I just got to do this one thing and wrap it up first, Dad. And in the background as that conversation, you see the whip sounds coming in. Sean gets webbed up. And once again, it's Miles Morales, which, again, I want to say this every time we talk about Miles Morales in this book. He is just the perfect Spider-Man for this, because he's the street urban kid who is still new to this, but he's more seasoned now. It's almost been 10 years since the introduction of Miles, so he's still new, but he's still seasoned, and he's just a better fit for this story than having Peter Parker show up or even Ben Reilly show up. I think that's cool. So we see that, I kind of just come in and like get things under control. I wrap things up with the webs. So that's done. If you guys want to grab something to eat, let's go have a bite and something. Wraps up the story nicely, so Sean's not really a threat anymore. Then we get some narration going overhead where Connor is obviously talking to someone, but he doesn't know who he's talking to yet. So we just kind of see like the wrap up of that story. We see Sean gets locked up, and he's like, I'm going to break out of here. You have not seen the end of me. We see that Mr. Colt's like, okay, my time here is certainly not done. We see that Sarah gets a call from Connor when they're just watching the footage of Darkhawk on the news. again, it's something that I'm actually impressed this story did, was it introduced Sarah at the end, not the beginning, as a potential love interest, because we literally just saw Dear Evan Hansen recently, and that's like, hey, why don't you not hit on the deceased person's sibling? That's weird. So we could have some time for her to hate Connor and hate Darkhawk, and then that could lead into like having to trust him later if this story were to continue. Sarah's a fun addition. We see his dad has just got a new job with good health insurance, and we see that Miles is just talking to him like, hey, do you like anime? Just getting right into it, Miles. Just right there, having to have that conversation. And we see that the person that Connor is talking to is his entire basketball team. And he just reveals to them, like, I have multiple sclerosis, and they're all very supportive. They're like, we knew something was up with you, even though Derek was involved in something. We knew there was something wrong with you. And Connor's just admitting he was ashamed to openly talk about it because he didn't know what he'd have without basketball. And you just see that the entirety of the team's like, no way, dude, we're brothers for life, we're family. And I just love this panel of all the basketball players because they're all just diverse in their hairstyle. Like, you got the one dude whose hair literally just shoots up and like it's a torch. The shaggy-haired, Goku-looking kid. The one that his hair covers his eyes. The Mohawk kid. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Like, what kind of hair? Kids don't have this kind of hair, but it's just really cool. So they're just supportive, and they're ready to play their next game, and you just see that they head out to play, and I guess Connor's still on the team when he's not really going to be actively on the court, which is kind of nice, and the coach is like, are you going to do okay? He's like, I don't know, but there's one thing I know for certain, and that's like the rest of my life starts now kind of thing. And the book ends with the capper of all cappers, another thing I've been kind of saying since the start of this book. We see somewhere in deep space a ship is headed somewhere, and it's just looking weird and different. Like some weird exosuit and some weird big chamber, and you just see somebody say, don't worry, Connor, everything changes. And it looks like it is Chris Powell in his classic suit, and man, does that look good in this art style. I knew Chris was coming back. Like, especially when we're doing the legacy stuff in the movies, you gotta start with Chris, and then you'll eventually go to Connor. Works for me. And it ends with the end, ? Because of course it's not the end. At some point, somebody is going to reboot the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're going to reboot Darkhawk. They're going to maybe make a Darkhawks book and have them both on Earth for a bit, because there's some, Richard Rider, Sam Alexander stuff you could play with here. That is where this book ends, with the possibility of Chris and Connor meeting up, and it's a nice capper to this story. It doesn't do a lot to add anything. It doesn't take away anything. It's just a solid outing and a fantastically good read. So, Darkhawk, issue number 5. I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.